It's Stacey Berger here, and I am thrilled to bring to you Theresa Stanley today, who is a real-world ninja and the executive director of Phoenix Taekwondo and the creator of Girls on Fire. And we're going to be talking about all things mindset and a little bit of girl power today too, I would imagine.
Yes.
So thank you for being here,
My
Teresa.
pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so maybe just start with a little bit of a bio. So who are you, and give us a little bit of your story to start with.
Well, I would say I'm kind of a professional ninja, I suppose. And so I am the head coach and executive director for the Phoenix Martial Arts Club. And I've been doing this for about like full-time, like 12 years. But I've been coaching since I was 14, just as an assistant coach. And I just kind of leaned into what I would love, as we talk about, and decided instead of going into a corporate career to go all in with my husband and coach full-time and just build this amazing organization and get up in the morning and do ninja things, including lots of girl power stuff where I teach the girls through martial arts just to be a little bit more confident in themselves and just have fun.
So a real world ninja. So how did you first get into martial arts, and what was your doorway into that?
My mom made me do it. This is funny because our gym in St. Albert is right beside Fabricland. And our old gym, so when I started when I was a kid, she wanted to go to Fabricland and she needed somewhere for me to go for an hour. So it was like, oh, well, this Taekwondo club was super affordable and I'm going to drop you off here while I do this. So I kind of was like, okay. But I also was, a 90s kid, so Power Rangers was a big thing. So there was interest.
Yeah.
And then I just got a taste of it and I went to my first tournament and won a medal and I was like, this is amazing, and just kind of went from there. So I think it kind of helped make me bloom because martial arts is, when you get those small wins, it kind of builds your confidence over time. So I really was able to grow as an individual through martial arts.
Yeah. And how many black belts do you have now?
6.
6 black belts.
Yes.
And how many studios?
So we have 6 locations.
Yeah.
2 being like permanent facilities, dream facilities, by the way, that we did a lot of vision work around. And then we have 4 that are like community clubs. So we run in schools and in community halls to serve the smaller communities.
Awesome. And in business with your husband, and tell us a little bit about that and how you navigate that. And I hear from a lot of people, I wish I could work with my husband, be in business with my husband or my spouse. So how do you guys navigate being in relationship and being in business together?
Well, we get to spar every Sunday and let it out. No, but for real, just like I think it's all about communication. And so we have vision talks about what we want for the business and what would we really love, and kind of talk it out on a regular basis. And we're both pretty chill people as well. So, just doing the work around, higher level awareness and, like you always say, notice what you're noticing, right? And trying to work through that stuff when it comes to the spouse, hey, kind of, where you kind of butting heads or whatever. It's let's just take a step back.
Yeah.
Figure out what's going on here and then come back to it. But at the end of the day, I think one of our core values is having fun. And so because we share that value, it just makes it easy. And I think because we're both doing what we love, it also makes it easy, you know?
Do you leave work at work, or does it bleed into every aspect of your life?
It's funny because he will go 24 hours, so he likes to do that, whereas I'm a little bit more I like to have my separate times and stuff like that. But it's like in The Mandalorian, this is the way, right? So, with martial arts and just what we do, it's it's a way of life.
Yeah.
And it's kind of all encompassing. So I do say sometimes hey, I just want to watch a movie.
Yeah.
Let's just take a pause, write those notes down and then come back to it. And that's more for me.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, I find when I'm doing what I love, for work, and it's also my passion. And so it just becomes how you live your life, which is martial arts, right? It's a way of living, not just what you do for that hour of time that you're in the studio. It's how you show up in life.
Absolutely.
What are some of the key tenets in martial arts that help you and you would say your students in life?
Well, in Taekwondo, we actually recite 5 tenets. So we have courtesy, integrity, perseverance, self-control, and indomitable spirit. And so within those, I actually teach a little bit of like philosophy behind them. I always tell my students that self-control is probably my favorite one, because I say especially the little ones, I want them to understand, like, you're in charge of what you say and what you do, no matter how you feel, right? So I'm trying to teach that personal responsibility. And then, like, the integrity as well, and just trying to teach them that, you're accountable for yourself, and courtesy, kindness, and so on. So those are kind of the 5 key ones.
Yeah.
But for me as like a school leader, it's definitely personal accountability is the biggest one that I'm trying to share with my students, because at the end of the day, you're in charge of you, right?
Yeah. So personal accountability, what does that mean to you?
That is like basically showing up as your best self, but also not being the victim, right? And choosing, knowing that you get to choose your thoughts, you're going to have, and we talk a lot about that and have in the program where it's like those thoughts are going to come in, but you actually get a choice.
Yeah.
Right? And you also get a choice in how you're going to respond to situations. So that's part of martial arts way too, right? The founder of Taekwondo actually said, we don't learn Taekwondo to fight. We actually learn Taekwondo not to fight, right? So being able to separate and realize that I have a choice in this situation. And I know when we went through the pandemic, I'm pretty sure you were the first person to call me. You're like, so... let's talk. I'm like, oh my God, right? And, the choices and the work that we did previous to the pandemic was, it was really my responsibility to make decisions on how I was going to show up navigating in an industry where we weren't, what did they call that? Essential, right?
Yeah.
But I was like, but I can still bring something to this world. Hence all the videos that we did, and we were able to navigate through things with a very intentional mindset.
Yeah, which is huge, right? When it feels like something is happening to you and we want to react to that. And oftentimes that's all we know is to react to that condition, to fight that condition, to blame that condition. And during the pandemic specifically, you're in an industry where you're shut down. This is your livelihood. This is your passion. You've got all of these students that you feel responsible for. What do you do in that moment?
Exactly.
And when it's personal accountability, you start to think different thoughts and take different actions.
And what was interesting was every week we did this little 4 to 7-year-old Facebook Live class for 10 minutes. And I could see all the kids that were Zooming in that were members, but we actually broadcasted it on Facebook. And I had people register when they could finally, because they said, you were the only people doing anything, and it kept my kid entertained for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm so happy I could help you have a break from your kid for 10 minutes when you're stuck in a house with them. And I met so many cats during that pandemic. They're like, look at my cat, right? Or I could see them running around and whatever. And it was, obviously a challenge, but it was interesting that because we made that choice to offer this not only to our paid membership, but to stream it live on Facebook, we were able to help people, even beyond.
And grow your business.
And grow, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
So,
which was really cool.
yeah, I love that. I love that. Talk about being a female in martial arts.
Yeah, it's still pretty heavily male dominated, especially at the higher levels and so on. It was a choice for me, because I always thought, can I be a school leader and be a woman? In a kind of a rough industry, it's fighting essentially. Are guys gonna come into the studio and respect this tiny 120 pound 5'2" person, right? And so it was actually a mind shift for me, being like, of course they can. Like, why wouldn't they? You know, I can't necessarily physically, well, you know, they hand-to-hand combat wise, but at the end of the day, I can still teach them something. And I found once I shifted that mindset of course I can be a leader here, I actually have more men coaching with me than ever, right? Like these big guys, and then they're the ones saying like, hey, you know, ma'am, how do I do this? How do I do this? How could I do this? I'm like, okay, get yourself a big partner. Come over here and I'll show you.
Yeah.
So it was really just, putting my crown on and deciding that I was going to make this an equal playing field, that there was no glass ceiling here, that I'm the queen of me, and that's that.
I love that. You decided.
I decided.
You decided, and therefore you saw the results.
Yeah, and there's really no difference, right? Like obviously my husband coaches a little different, and I coach a little different than my other coaches, but you know, it's not like somebody's coming in and being like, oh, I don't want to teach with you because you're a woman, right? It's like I don't let that energy off so it doesn't come in.
Yeah. I love that. And back to the personal accountability piece, right?
Yeah. Is
how am I going to show up
exactly
in this environment, in this industry?
Yes.
And you made a choice about that.
Absolutely. And I want females who are in, really male dominated industries to not let that hold them back.
Yeah.
Right? So, whether in finance or, some of the engineering, the ones that are typically male dominated, I'm like, you just got to show up who you are. And one of the big key things was not showing up trying to be masculine.
Yes.
Right? Because we know that every human, every spirit has a masculine side and a feminine side. And so if you're trying to be a guy to, fit in, it actually does more detriment, I found. Because when I changed my coaching style to embrace who I was, it was way more well received.
Yes.
Which was interesting.
That's such a good point, because sometimes we think we have to become something we're not.
Exactly.
And it's the more authentically us we are,
yes,
the more we attract
absolutely
the right and perfect people and all of the things. And it's less stressful.
Oh, totally less stressful. You get to just be, who you are as a soul, right? So it just feels better, and there's no mask there. I'm not trying to be like a, play in a guy's world or anything like that. I'm like, no. This is my world, right? So that's kind of how I navigate that.
One of the things when we first met, you were lots of different projects, lots of different businesses on the go, kind of prided yourself on being multi-entrepreneurial, and you were excelling in many of those things, and you made a decision to bring focus to one or two. Tell us about that. There's so many people out there that I've got all these ideas and all these projects and all these initiatives. Tell us a little bit about making that decision and what that did for you.
You know what? I remember it. Like, I remember it was like the universe was just like, this is where you're going. And it just felt so much more clear. And so I had my hands in fitness and fashion and, all these other things. And I honestly, like if I was going to be, really like letting people behind the doors, it was feeling like I was spinning my wheels. So if you feel like that, I hear you, right? It's spinning. It's like, you're kind of moving forward, but not to the extent that you want to, right? And so I was noticing I was getting frustrated, and I was like, what is happening? And so I leaned into my intuition. It's just something that I'm really trying to do more often now. And I heard when actually I was listening to a mom explain like her daughter was like really struggling with her self-esteem. She was like 8 years old, and she was just so struggling. And I was like, I can help with this. And it was like a lens, like, at the doctor where all the lenses come together, and it's like everything went into focus. And it was like, I don't need anything else. This is my path. And so once I figured that out, I just kind of dropped everything else. And, sometimes you feel guilty because you have people connected in other ways. And I just basically sent an email and I said, I'm not doing these things anymore. Here's some resources for you. This is the path that I'm going on. Yeah. And it was interesting to see the success, but also the ease.
Yeah.
Right? Where it wasn't like I was fighting or spinning. I woke up and it was easy, and the events filled and it was easy. And on the financial end, easy. It wasn't like I have to work at it.
Yeah.
Right? And it just came. So that was such a cool learning lesson as an entrepreneur.
Yeah. Sometimes less is more.
Yeah.
And oftentimes less is more.
Yeah.
Yeah. Henry David Thoreau, he's quoted as saying, simplify, simplify, simplify as one of the tenets of success.
Yeah.
And we tend to make things more complicated than they need to be.
Well, and there's the squirrel effect. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs are like, oh, that's a good idea. And this is a good idea. And I'm, And women, we like to multitask anyways, right? But, then it can turn into overwhelm.
Yeah.
So it's like, you kind of have to, in Taekwondo, we talk about having one goal, right? So we're taking one goal at a time and just leaning into that and focusing in. So, yeah.
Yeah. So that mom was talking about her 8-year-old daughter, and out of that was born a vision and a dream. So talk about that.
Yeah, you got to like witness all that, which is really cool.
Yeah.
So in that conversation, it was actually like at an event, and I heard this and I was like, oh my gosh, I can help, right? And so where like the sky's open and it's like, oh, right, that's what it felt like in that moment. So I got in the car after that and I called one of my coaches, another female coach, and I was like, hey, I have this idea. And she's like, ugh, I'm in, all the things, I'm all about helping girls. So we started with this workshop called Girls on Fire, because Phoenix, that's kind of where that all came together. And we did a workshop, and it had like 25 girls. And we just did this like 2-hour little empowerment workshop. And they're like, when's the next one? And I was like, okay, let me put some stuff together. And then, the universe, God, whoever, whatever, was channeling, said, you can do more. And so I was like, I have this idea of like 100 girls, because why can't I help 100 girls at the same time? And we did this like little mini conference where they got to learn a bunch of different things. And then I was like, okay, we can do more, right? And so it just kind of went pop, pop, pop. And now this is year 5, which is crazy. And we've navigated the pandemic and everything really successfully with all that. And now we have the Girls on Fire Confidence Conference. And it sold out the last couple of years. So we had 160 girls, and they get to spend the day with mentors, like women mentors, learning about, how to navigate bullying, right? I say navigate because it's always, that's something that is life.
Yeah.
Tween and teen life. So rather than fighting it, we're going to navigate it.
Yeah, love that.
Right? And then, things about their core values and understanding who they are, and a little bit about body image and the messaging that's coming out on social media. Then they get to learn self-defense, because obviously that's a key piece, and they get to break a board. They get to have snacks, which is the most important part about, an 8 and 9-year-old girl's life. It's 8 to 13 is the group. And I just felt this like pull to help that age group, because they're just starting to get into that time where, if you have that age group of girls, like they're like becoming little humans and having to navigate social situations, right? And I'm like, if I can give them something to like be more confident around the navigating friends or whatever's happening in their little lives, that's big.
It's massive.
Right. It's big. And, there's going to be things in high school and all the things, but I'm hoping that when they look back, they're like, oh, I learned this at Girls on Fire.
Yeah.
And it helped me through this.
Yes.
And I'm like, that's all I can ask to help the world, right? It's just one little girl at a time, right? So it's just rolled into this massive thing. And now I'm in Red Deer for the second time this year. We're looking at Calgary. I actually have contacts in Vegas that want to bring it to the States. And so this is where that ease comes in. Mm-hmm. And I know that it's kind of like the path.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what's that. And it's so exciting.
Well, what I love about the story and the birth of that is it was one moment where you paid attention. Mm-hmm. So somebody saying something to you and you paid attention, and there's ideas all around us if we're willing to listen. And there was a spark within you that And to listen to that spark, Teresa.
Yeah.
And yes, there's ease, but you also have worked your tail off.
Oh, of course.
Too, right?
Yes.
But to listen to that voice and to take action on it. And 25 girls, and now how many girls over the last 5 years?
Oh my gosh, we're coming up on like 1,000 girls.
Yeah.
Which is crazy because like even little changes in 1,000 girls,
Yeah.
like who knows?
The ripple effect of
Who
that.
knows? Like if one of them is a Prime Minister of Canada one day, I'll be like,
Yeah.
you're welcome. Right? So yeah, it's just been amazing. But yeah, noticing those little signs, it's like, this is what I want, you know, and just, you know, you work really, really hard, but like you always ask, like, what would you love?
Yeah.
Right? And I'm like, well, I love this. And yeah, it's going to be things that I have to do that, but I get to do it and it's fun and it's exciting and it's lots of life to be done and challenges and which are fun to like navigate,
Yeah.
right? And then we get to do this really big, you know, vision of things.
Yes. Well, and the ease comes from the doors opening easily, and you're living
Yes.
from your passion. And
Yes.
yeah,
As opposed to like, you know, not working. I think that's one thing that sometimes when I'm having these discussions with people, it's like, well, it's not that I don't work hard.
Yeah.
I'm like, but in a easy way.
yeah, there's a flow.
Right. And I had a lady, there's a podcaster named Tanya Lee, and she says leisurely hustle, which I love that term because it's like, it's fun, but you're still like,
Yeah.
you know, moving the needle, doing the things that you want to do, achieving, and like our life, like we want to expand. It's like what our human calling is to expand more, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
And when you have a vision and you're passionate about it, it does become easier and more fun because you're doing something you're in love with.
Exactly. And it just feels good.
Yeah.
Right.
So good. Well, and two of my girls, I only have two girls. My girls have both attended the
Love them.
workshop and loved it.
Yeah.
And I'm just so grateful that there's a place for them to go and to experience that. And I would say the community. So to see other girls like them in those conversations, just like as adults, we need that community and that connection for them to experience that. So powerful.
Yeah, it's so great watching them and then them interact with like the women leaders as well.
Yeah.
Because like a lot of the women leaders just are, hey, you know, you can do that. I'm a doctor. I'm a speaker. I'm a podcaster. You know, I'm a cook. And then they get to see women doing things in different capacities, realizing that, oh, okay, maybe I can do that.
Yeah.
Right? So there's just a lot of power behind the whole like setup of the event, which I love.
Yeah.
And it's just, you know, my little way of giving back and expanding this universe.
The other thing that happens there is they hear these women talk about their childhood experience and, oh, you had bullying, oh, you had this, and you're successful, right? I think it takes that I'm not the only one.
Yes.
And they don't feel as lonely.
Yeah, and you know, it can, it's like that shared thing, and as I think as females as well, like community and like camaraderie is really important to females. Like that's a big key thing. And so when they feel like they belong or they feel like someone gets them, that's gold.
Absolutely. So good. So you also compete. So talk about training for the competition, being in competition, and the importance of mindset inside of that.
Yeah. I love competition. It keeps me, I would say it keeps me on my toes. So I've recently competed, I've transitioned from competing in Taekwondo which is more of a traditional art, to full contact, which is like in a ring, you know, basically no gear, just gloves, right? Like kind of, it was on pay-per-view, so what you see on TV. And it's been a fun challenge learning the different impacts like on my body as well. And like, oh, okay, that hurts a lot more now. This girl's trying to knock me out. But I did a lot of mindset work going into it, a lot of visualization. And as athletes, like that's a big thing. It's just when I'm in the morning, I would walk through the fight. And one of the things that in my first fight, I imagined my arm going up. That was big. And so I would feel the ref like holding my glove and like arm going up, right? So that was, and then in the first fight that I had in November, my first experience full contact, it happened. I won. And then I did it in the second one that I did this spring. And I always say, like, you either win or you learn. Did a lot of mindset around it. And just, how am I going to show up in this? When you're having to get and do these trainings that are just like there's this one kind of training style. It's called the Shark Tank. And so basically you go in there and you get like 8 people, and every 2 minutes it's a fresh guy, and you get like 1 minute break. So and they're trying to like push your pace, right? So it's intense. It's like, oh man, do I want to do this? But going through and remembering that I want this to happen.
Yeah.
And this is the way that I need to train to get there. And also switching from, I get to do this.
Yeah.
Right? This is fun, right? So these are the steps that I must take, and embracing even the Shark Tank like as a fun day.
Yeah.
Right? So I feel like when I do the walkthrough of the fight, like I know you teach, everything's always created twice, right? Yeah. So first in your mind and then in reality. So in fighting, I walk through the fight in my mind, and then I go do it. So I've already done that fight 500 times.
Yeah.
And so now I just actually have to physically do it. And there's a certain like serenity inside the ring when the bell goes. Like, I've already been here.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot more mental work than people might think, but it's, as any athlete, no matter what you're doing, like that mindset work is huge.
Absolutely.
Huge. And then if you don't win, that was another thing. So I didn't win my second time, and I know where in the game, like what I need to improve on. But I think because I know that I gave 100% in my training, and she was just the better player that day, it helps you accept that loss, even though it's still like, oh man, but you're like, okay, I know that I did, and I left it all on the floor.
Yeah.
And I'm proud of myself, no matter the result.
Yeah.
Right. So now it's back to the drawing board, and we're gonna go back and do better.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah.
So mindset pre, during, and post, all essential.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So good. I love what you said is, so the action, the Shark Tank, I don't want to necessarily do this, but I want where it's going to take me.
That's right.
And I think no matter what our goal, what our vision is, when there's the action steps, I don't really want to do this, to remember why.
Yeah.
I always say, for the purpose of what. And when you can connect that action to the vision and that goal achieved, it just helps to make it through, right?
Absolutely.
And to take those action steps.
Yeah. Well, and that's in any pursuit of any goal.
Yeah.
It's like, that's the hard stuff that sharpens us. And so if you're kind of embracing it, it doesn't feel good in the moment, but you're like, no, this is going to get me. This is going to make sure that when I'm in the ring, I'm not going to be out of breath.
Yeah, I do that oftentimes with my events. It's when I get to the end of my event, I want to know that I did my best and I did the prep work in order to accomplish that. So who do I want to be at the end of that? I want to be the person who put it all on the table, right?
That's right. Yeah, and that goes back to the vision work, right?
Yeah.
That you always talk about, is just, who do I want to be? This is my future self, and what do I need to do right now to take steps towards that?
Yeah.
So yeah.
So mindset's so important. What do you notice when your mental game isn't on point as an athlete?
Oh, you know what? When it's not, and you haven't been doing the work, it's easy to make excuses. And it's easy not to show up to practice or to not give all, right? Because you haven't been focusing on that end result and like what you want and your goals. And I think that actually makes it harder, right? To show up to those like really tough practices. Because, they're always tough, but when your mindset isn't around it, then it's like, oh, my toe hurts. I don't want to do this today. You know what I mean? So that's where excuse-itis comes in. And so that's why the mental preparation, I think, is even like that much more important, because if you're set up here, then the physical stuff is not easier, but you're more willing, and there's only so much motivation you can have. You need to be disciplined, and it needs to start here.
Yes.
So yeah.
So what's next?
Oh my goodness. All the things.
All the
All the things. So yeah, with Girls on Fire, like I said, we're expanding. I have some online stuff that's going that way. As far as fighting goes, I'm going to look for a spring fight. And I'm actually taking a team to England this fall. So it's their turn to go through the grueling training, and I get to sit back and just yell at them as a coach. But real talk, it's usually keep up to me is my coaching style. So, okay guys, we're running, right? Yeah, and just continuing to expand our brand. Like we've added a new Muay Thai program. Oh my gosh, I could talk all about this, but we have a new team that came in, and what was really cool was just like they're so hungry to learn, and even the stuff that you talk about, I'm like, they want to learn that stuff, right? We have a great jiu-jitsu team, and just being able to like impact more people through our brand, right? Whether that's online, which is another thing that's coming. It's just, every opportunity that, again, I'm trying to listen, what can we do? How can I help? Who can we impact? And how can we have more fun, right? So just whatever's fun.
I love that. So thanks again, Teresa, for being here. I hope that you found some inspiration with Teresa's message. We will link to Girls on Fire in the Phoenix Taekwondo so you can find her information. And it's one thing to hear this message, but really look at how are you going to take one of these ideas and apply it into your life. Thanks for being here. Here is to you living a life that you love.